I was really excited when I found out that we have a local celebrity in Dan Parker. I don't want to spoil his presentation by telling you much, but I met him through another friend who has vision problems, and he said, "Did you hear what Dan just did?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, he is known as the world's fastest man." I wasn't sure how to take that, but now I know. So I want Dan to tell you about it. Dan Parker.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate learning about the Southern Danes and the work y'all are doing for the visually impaired, and that's honorable and great. How many here have seen the movie The Field of Dreams?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Ray, the main character, portrayed by Kevin Costner, was a Iowa corn farmer that was flat broke, and in the field one day, a voice came to him, if you build it, they will come. And for sure, the ghost of baseball legends passed after he built the Field of Dreams against everybody ridiculing him and making fun of him and all the struggles and the worries. And today I'm going to share with you my Field of Dreams. I was born and raised here in Columbus, Georgia, as a second-generation racer. My father, Jimmy, raced, and actually my mother was 8 months pregnant with me, and she won a race at Phoenix City drag strip. Not sure if I've been right ever since. And so at a young age, I realized I absolutely sucked at stick and ball sports. I was attracted to anything mechanical: bicycles, go-karts, mini bikes. I came in second place at a mini bike race at Phoenix City Drag Strip when I was 8 years old. At 14 years old, I was Georgia State road race champion racing bicycles. I worked in bicycle shops from age of 13 till I graduated high school. And after high school, I started pursuing my career as a machinist and welder. And in my mid-20s, I took a leap of faith and opened my own chassis shop where I built and designed race cars. I've always had an inventive mind, is what I call it. And so I started Parker Chassis in 1997. I built race cars and motorcycles for people all around the world, including the Sheik of Qatar, people in Canada. I started racing Pro Mod cars, which are the fastest cars on the planet with a working left door. So 0 to 200 miles per hour in 4 seconds flat, 0 to 75 in 1 second with over 2,500 horsepower. In 2005, I was the American Drag Racing League Pro Nitrous World Champion. March 31st, 2012 was the day that changed my life forever. We were doing what I've done 1,000 times before. I was testing new motor combination in Steele, Alabama. The first 2 passes went great to half track. So the first full pass, we decided we was going to try to qualify for the race. We came to there to solely use it as a test session. The first full pass at the 8th mile mark at 175 miles per hour, the car made a hard right turn from left lane into the right wall, tore down the wall, went into tumbling. The car broke in half. The motor ended up over 100 feet away from the car. They extracted me from the car. I was in such bad shape. They didn't know, if I was going to make it. I had broke ribs, collapsed lung. This whole right arm was completely destroyed, numerous other injuries. And I was struggling to breathe, and I was begging them just to let me die right there on the spot. They called the Life Flight helicopter, and there was a storm in between the racetrack and the University of Alabama Hospital, so the helicopter couldn't come. So they loaded me up in the ambulance with my girlfriend riding shotgun as the ambulance bounced off the speed limiter, trying to get to UAB as fast as possible. They did something I'd never heard of before. They called ahead and had another ambulance meet my ambulance on the side of the highway so that EMT could get in my ambulance to help my EMT keep me alive for the 45-minute drive to UAB. I was in such bad shape, they took me back, obviously. After about 12 hours, the doctors come out and told my family and my girlfriend that they was going to deuce me into a coma, to go home, get your things in order, and come back because I had a long road ahead of me. The right arm started having infections, and long story short, I was induced into a coma for 2 weeks. When they brought me out of the coma on the last day, they said the day is the day. If we bring him out, that's fine. If we have to put him in the coma, he was going to have to trach me my throat, and they was trying to keep from having to do that. Well, obviously I was talking a little crazy after all the pain medicine and everything else. Well, my fiance and my sister would notice I'd be in the hospital bed, and I wouldn't recognize anybody was there unless they spoke, and it would startle me. And my pupils were not constricting. So the neuro-ophthalmologist was called in the next day. He puts my head in the little machine, shines the light, and he says, "What do you see?" I said, "Absolutely nothing." I said, "I can feel the heat off the lights, but that's it." And he told me in no uncertain terms, I was 100% blind for life. At that moment, I knew everything in my life had changed. I lost my business, everything I knew, racing, everything I knew in my life was over with. Deep down, I knew I'd commit suicide. I would stop this. Well, after about a month of UAB, I came home to my new world of darkness. And every day, I was fighting my demons and struggling. My whole right arm was stuck completely straight from the reconstructive surgery. I had back therapy once a week, hand therapy once a week. I couldn't even squeeze this hand to grip anything, much less bust an egg for the first 3 months. It took 2 months of hand therapy before I could even do that. This whole right arm, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got scars. I have a pin between my shoulder and my elbow. 3 plates are still left, 14 screws, a pin here, a pin in my thumb, and I have massive nerve damage to this right hand. So as I faced and fought every day to try to get back to somewhat normalcy, my inventive mind turned into the curse of the inventive mind. I was thinking of ways how I could stop my life. I did not want to continue. I begged Jennifer from the hospital to move back to Birmingham and forget about me, and she wouldn't have it. And so one night, I went to bed thinking about my late brother that passed away in 2009 and my mother that passed away just 6 months before my wreck from pancreatic cancer. And my brother had always told me about a story that was really intriguing because he loved the Bonneville Salt Flats, 120 miles west of Salt Lake City, where people have been setting land speed records there since 1914. Chris told me about 4 guys from France. They built a 50cc motorcycle. They designed it where they could take it apart. They put it in their luggage. They flew to the United States. They flew to the United States. They rented a car. They drove to Bonneville, and they each got a record with and without sidecar. Well, my inventive mind, sadly, I came down to 3 choices how I was going to end my life. I was going to hang myself, zip tie my hands together, drown myself in my pond, or walk in front of a logging truck. Well, that night I went to sleep thinking about Chris, my mom. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke from the most vivid dream that I'd build a motorcycle and be the first blind man to ever race Bonneville. That dream saved my life. I never went back to sleep that night. From then on, I had a purpose. And of course, Jennifer woke up and I told her my dream, and she said, okay. She'd much rather have me go out on my terms that way than the other. At least I had a chance if I had a purpose. Well, needless to say, after about 2 months research, a friend of mine donated a motorcycle to me. And the day the shop door opened with my dad and my friends, and I proudly announced to them that I was going to build a motorcycle to race again, that went over like a whoopee cushion in church. And so then I had a purpose, and I had passion, and I had perseverance. So every day I was starting to learn how to use my iPhone. I was networking. I was researching. I was asking for donations because we were flat broke. We were barely keeping a roof over our head. We were selling my equipment and stuff to keep a roof over our head, but I had a mission. 10 months later, in 2013, I became the first blind man to race Bonneville. I returned in 2014 and set my FIM class record with no exemptions for blindness, as I'm the only blind man in the world that's ever raced with no human assistance. In this process, a friend of mine at Boeing Phantom Works built me a guidance system. So Bonneville, you go straight. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie The World's Fastest Indian with Anthony Hopkins. It's based on a real story. So we plot the course, and the computer calculates a straight path. If I go 1 foot right or left, I get a tone in that ear. The further off center I go, the tone increases, like do, do, do. So if the tone is constant, I'm going straight. I just might be a little right or left, no problem. If the motorcycle went 20 feet right or left, it would automatically shut off. When I went through the finish line, it shut it off. So my official FIM class record is 62.05 miles per hour. Well, I came home in 2015 from the Louisiana Center for the Blind 9-month training program on March 31st, exactly 3 years to the date of my wreck. I graduated. to the new world of realizing that 70% of the blind are unemployed in America, 99% in the world. So at that point, I decided I wanted to try to define blindness, not let blindness define me. And so I've been blessed to have several jobs as a blind person. My most recent is a part-time parapro teaching machine shop at Jordan Vocational High School. But sadly, the results of my traumatic brain injury, which I tell everybody is my worst injury, not my blindness, I had to resign. Neurofatigue, migraines, I just couldn't do it anymore. So in 2017, I knew I needed another purpose, another project. There was one more piece of fruit hanging on the racing tree, the title for the fastest blind man in the world that was held by Mike Newman in England. So I sold a van I had, my last worldly possession that I had to contribute to the racing program, and I found a 2008 flood salvaged Corvette in Oklahoma City that had no motor and no interior. It was ugly, and to say that it had a rough life would be an understatement. So 3 of my buddies, we drove to Oklahoma City and back, brought home the Corvette, and my new purpose began again. Struggling to find the finances, the resources, the friends to build a complete race car in my little humble 20 by 30 shop right here off 54th Street by Cascade Hills Church. In 2019, the car had been painted. We were getting fairly close, and the producers of Jay Leno's Garage reached out to me and asked me would I like to film an episode. And so that allowed me to attract sponsors. We brought them on board. We finished the car just in time for the East Coast Timing Association event at the spaceport in New Mexico, February of 2020. So the first full pass after an all-night test session, because when we got to the spaceport, the car had never been a quarter mile under its own power. So the first pass for Jay Leno's Garage, I went 153.8 miles per hour, and it was a success. Then COVID hit. Everything came to stop for all of us. You know, my racing, it put me in a funk. Well, I decided that I needed to turn my talents of a machinist into a career. So I launched my website, theblindmachinist.com, where I hand machine custom aluminum ink pens that are Cerakoted, and I've shipped them all around the world, and I'll send you a link through an email through Glory if y'all like to check it out. Well, during COVID, you know, the struggle was real, and the president of the National Federation of the Blind, who sponsored the motorcycle, reached out to me and was wanting to do something big for the 10-year anniversary of the Blind Driver Challenge, the fall of 2020. So we were scheduled to go back to the spaceport to attempt the record for the world's fastest blind man, but COVID postponed it till earlier this year. The weather patterns for January and February at spaceport was cold and snow, so we chose March. We had the track rented for 3 days, the 29th, 30th, 31st. The first 2 days, we had 40 and 50 miles per hour winds, and I was able to attempt the record, but I have a test Corvette that I bought as a practice car that has a second guidance system. I could go out there with I call it test dummy. The license plate is TSTDMY, test dummy. and I was able to maintain a path of 10 foot wide with a 50 miles per hour wind at 120 miles an hour safely. So on the last day, we deemed it safe enough for me to try. After a few test sessions, I clicked off a 205 miles per hour pass. I knew I had enough to do it. So we took the car back to the pits. I made some shock adjustment calls. We put the moon disc on. We had the Guinness Book World Record officials there. On my first official pass, I went 210 miles per hour. And for Guinness, to set a record, it has to be both directions. So if the wind helps you one way, it hurts the other and averages out within 1 hour. So once I brought the car to a stop, we turned the car around. The pit crew came up, serviced the car, packed the parachutes, cooled it. I never got out of the car trying to maintain my composure and kept my helmet on. And Jennifer kept the film crews away to try to keep me from getting nervous and getting worked up. On the second return run, I made a pass of 212 miles per hour, giving me an average of 211.043 miles per hour, and bringing the title home for the world's fastest blind man to America and to Columbus, Georgia. And some of you may have seen a special that was on the CBS Evening News with Steve Hartman recently about me with a little blind boy, Ted. So I'll give that in my email also, that y'all enjoy it. But one thing I overlooked, that in 2019, I proposed to my fiance on the Steve Harvey TV show, and I'll include that also. So we've had a whirlwind of ups and downs, throughout this blindness. But all of us have a field of dreams, whether it's painting a painting or wanting to run a triathlon or a marathon or write a book. So I challenge everybody here today to go out and build your field of dreams. Break out your laptops, lace up your running shoes, get your paintbrush, whatever it is that's on your mind, whatever is your passion, pursue it. Because always know that you can make excuses or make it happen. And that's always been my life motto, long before blindness. And I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak today.
So much, Dan. That was inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
I will give you a little anecdote. We always record CBS morning news, Sunday morning news, Sunday morning, I think that's, and we always record it because we're on our way to church when it comes on. So I walked through the door the other day, and my husband was watching it. And I heard Steve Hartman's voice, which I've always loved because I loved his dad, David Hartman. And I heard him say, Dan Parker. And I went, wait a minute, stop that, right now. And I said, is that my Dan Parker? And he said, yeah. And it is the sweetest story that you've ever heard. What did he call it? Oh, it was something for
audience of one.
An audience of one. Steve's had a nephew who was blind, and I think he's about 10.
Yeah, he's about 10 years old.
10 years old. And so he wanted to do something for him, and he got in touch with Dan. The crew came to Columbus and filmed Dan, but Dan's experience with the boy, you might want to mention him.
Yeah, so Ted is 10 years old, and as you might imagine, being blind in a school system, of a sighted world, he felt out of place. He always just, felt, out of place and not acceptance to the world. And so he had some, as Steve says, some woe me moments. And so when Steve heard about my story, he wanted something to try to inspire Ted, that it don't let his blindness stop him. So he came to Columbus, filmed it, and we'll share with you the link. And the two videos and the email I'm going to share with you, I'm just going to give you a tissue warning. You might. It has been known to make grown men cry. So,
Well, it was wonderful, and we really appreciate your being
Thank
here
you.
and sharing your story and your field of dreams.
Thank you.
And we will be sending an honorarium in your memory. I mean, in your memory. Oh my God.
Did I get the memo?
No, nobody told you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in your honor to the
National Federation of the Blind.
Federation of the Blind.
Our Fountain City chapter.
Right. We'll take care of that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, y'all.